this is definitely going to be a huge part of how we diagnose autism because I don't think the world is satisfied. Like if you have a doctor who's in like, let's say my specialty or some psychiatrist or developmental pediatrician, like it's not good enough to just get their opinion anymore. You know, people want like a concrete answer. They want something from a computer. It's like yes or no, not like you think so. So that's kind of the way the world's going. I still believe that there's a huge opportunity for the art of medicine, but when you look at big data, it's kind of hard to beat big data. And I'll give you an example. So does anyone know what an actuary is? Like, okay, do you want to tell the group what an actuary does?
Oh,
No?
no.
Okay. My understanding is that an actuary like creates tables of how likely it is, let's say that I'm going to live to be 60 and 65 and 70, 75, 80, 95, you know, all the way through. And they'll put little percentages and they just need a few numbers. They're like, okay, we have this zip code, we know this height, weight, you know, maybe gender, maybe race, if I'm a smoker, and my blood pressure, something like that. And then they can take those numbers and it's kind of scary because you're like, wow, I have a 98% chance not to live past 90, you know, like, and I have 80% chance to get to 80, you know, like, and that's just me. But what they do is they not only stack the way they got that calculation is they stacked lots and lots and lots and lots of people, you know, in the United States, and they start saying, okay, unless this guy beats all the odds, he's going to have a 90% chance to live this long, you know, and then they use those data tables to like issue a life insurance policy, for example. Or like if you have a teenager who's going to drive, they'll say, okay, we know that they drive, we know they're 16, we know they get good grades, and maybe we know that they got an underage drinking charge. Okay, we'll plug that in the computer, and this is the rate on their insurance based on the likelihood they're going to have a serious accident. So those actuaries are using big data. And it used to be like tables in a chart, and now it's, as you guys know with the computers, it's just these computers are so powerful that you can crank, you know, like a billion people in there, and they can say, we know these 1,000 people have autism and that these other people don't. And then they put one more in and say, which person is this one like? The 1,000 or the other 1,000? And the computer will say that the 1,000 that have autism. And they start perfecting where that line is. And now they're using computers to look at things like they can draw a hair sample, they can look at an image of the brain or the connections in the brain, and they can say, you know, unless we're missing something, this is where the line is. I think this is going to be a contributor to the diagnosis in the future. I think overall it's going to be a help. You know, like if you could do a heel stick on a baby and know, that would be helpful because we know the early interventions are better. So, but it's also kind of scary because, yeah, it's like a computer telling you who you are in some ways. Just wanted to point out that there is an FDA approved diagnostic software system that uses big data. It's called Cognoa, and it uses a parent report questionnaire that goes out on a mobile app, and then you send it back, and then you get some home videos of your kid, and you send that in, and then they do another questionnaire, and based on all the thousands and thousands of children, they're getting pretty good at saying, hey, you send us just a few things, and we can tell you pretty confidently that that's likely to be autism. It's not the be all and end all. And the FDA approval carries a lot of weight because it says, okay, this is legit, but again, it's not the be all and end all. It's just a tool. But they're using big data for that as well. So when we look at eye contact, you know, in infants, for example, where you shake something and they should look at that, or they see a face and they should look at that. If they see a face and something shaking like that, they should look at the face first. But a lot of times, kids in infants, they might prefer to look at the bell or something like that. So they say, well, what kids with autism, do they tend to look at faces or bells more? And they start to generate equations, and they're trying to find autism earlier. Okay, so autism and vaccines. So this one is, from a scientific standpoint, it's pretty cut and dried that autism is not caused by vaccines. I think the second half of that is that there's definitely parents or people or family members who really believe that, and that's fine. that maybe autism was caused by vaccines for their child. You don't want to get into an argument, but for the population at large, it's overwhelming that when you look at big numbers, vaccines don't cause autism. It's been researched like frontwards and backwards and in every corner of the world, all kinds of different health systems outside the United States, inside the United States. So there's not a lot there. So right now, what's playing out is that vaccine rates have dropped. So it is important. You can't really make the decision in this medical freedom versus what's best. But I think in terms of information, there's no evidence that vaccines cause autism. Vaccines and autism is one of the top Google searches even now. And it's not driven by people who are not educated. It's driven by college-educated parents who are doing those searches. They're smart people. They're skeptical. That's great. This is interesting because they're able to do, through big data, studies in blood work, looking at genes and get a calculation of how likely it is that someone's going to have autism or ADHD or a whole host of other conditions. So it's called polygenic risk score, and they use genomic information to try to project. And in autism, that's important because you just want to find them as early as possible. So early intervention is a real thing. Outcomes are better early. And so why wouldn't we want to get that information right away?
Go up in the clouds because the view's a little nicer up here.